You stand before something that breathes. Not a building in any conventional sense, but a living membrane pulsing with rhythms older than human agriculture, older than the domestication of seeds, older than the first hand that reached into soil and understood growth could be guided. Before you, the entrance reveals itself not as a door but as a threshold where air changes thickness, where oxygen and moisture and the exhalations of 10,000 leaves create atmosphere like liquid warmth, like the inside of a lung, like the space between rain and river. This is not a place you find on maps, not a destination marked by signs, but a convergence occurring when the need for green becomes urgent, when the soul hungers for growth that cannot be measured in profit or productivity, when separation between human and vegetal becomes unbearable and must be healed. The path here is made of longing, of accumulated desire of all who have tended gardens in hostile soil, who have spoken to plants and believed they were heard, who have felt the intelligence of roots and known it matched their own. You do not need to understand how you arrived. The greenhouse found you, as it finds all who need it, drawn by frequencies roots emit, by chemical signals traveling through fungal networks, by the silent language of chlorophyll speaking directly to blood without passing through mind. The air is heavy with potential, with weight of seeds not yet decided to wake, with memory of seasons compressed into humid breath. You stand at the threshold feeling the greenhouse waiting, patient as only plants can be, eternal as only growth can be, ready to teach what it has taught every gardener, that time moves differently here, that urgency dissolves, that only presence, attention, and willingness to be changed by soil is required. You step through the membrane and the warmth closes around you like water, like the embrace of a mother who has been waiting since before you were born, like the return to a womb you never knew you remembered. The space is not geometric but organic, not planned but grown, the walls curving in ways that follow the logic of stems seeking light, of roots seeking water, of growth responding to growth in patterns that no architect could design but any seed would recognize. The floor is not stone but earth, living earth, teeming with organisms too small to see but large enough to feel as a vibration, a hum, a subtle electricity that rises through your feet and reminds you that you too are soil, that your body will one day feed what feeds you now. Light filters through layers of glass and leaf, not directly but refracted, scattered, turned into something softer than sunlight, something more like the light that reaches the forest floor, the light that plants have evolved to crave, gentle and diffuse and sufficient without being harsh. In the morning hours, which flow differently here, the illumination has a golden quality, rich and heavy, filled with the dust of pollen and spores that drift in the still air, each particle a potential beginning, a possible future forest contained in microscopic form. By midday, which is simply when the light is strongest, the space becomes cathedral-like, the rays penetrating through canopy layers to create pools of brightness that move as leaves move, that shift as branches shift, an ever-changing mosaic of illumination that requires no interpretation, only witnessing. As the hours progress, the light softens again, taking on amber tones, honey tones, the colors of preservation and storage, of energy being banked against the coming darkness, of sugars being synthesized and sent down to roots that wait in the cool dark below. A descent leads downward from the entrance chamber, not stairs but a spiral path that follows the curve of a root system, each step cushioned by moss and leaf litter, by the slow accumulation of organic matter that feeds what grows above while creating what grows below. The path is not difficult but requires a different kind of attention, the kind that knows how to read soil texture, how to sense moisture levels, how to trust that the earth will hold you even when it seems too soft, too giving, too alive beneath your feet. As you descend, the air grows heavier, richer, carrying the scent of decomposition that is not rotten but fertile, the smell of life becoming life, of death feeding birth in a cycle that has no beginning and no end, only constant transformation. The walls of this passage are not stone but root, thick cables of living tissue that have grown over decades or centuries, creating a tunnel that breathes, that adjusts, that responds to your presence by altering the chemistry of the air around you, releasing compounds that calm, that heal, that prepare you for what waits below. There are no railings because the roots themselves provide handholds, gnarled and twisted into shapes that fit human palms as if they had grown for exactly this purpose, as if the greenhouse had anticipated your need and grown solutions before you knew you had needs. This was not designed but evolved, the result of countless generations of plants and caretakers, of a symbiosis between human intention and vegetal intelligence that has produced something neither could create alone. You move slowly, not from caution but from reverence, because slowness is the speed of roots, because each moment in this descent is an opportunity to feel the shift from the world of air and light to the world of water and darkness, from the quick metabolism of leaves to the patient persistence of tubers and rhizomes. The lower chamber opens at the bottom of the spiral, larger than the entrance but darker, its ceiling lower, its atmosphere thick with the particular humidity of underground places where water and soil have married to create mud, to create clay, to create the medium in which roots expand and explore and claim territory. This is the root zone, the rhizosphere, the half-lit world where the real work of the greenhouse occurs, where nutrients are exchanged, where alliances are formed between species that above ground might compete but below ground cooperate in networks of mutual aid that span the entire structure. The light here is green-filtered, passing through leaves and stems above to reach this space transformed, carrying only the wavelengths that have not been absorbed, the leftovers of photosynthesis that create an underwater quality, a submarine atmosphere where you feel you could breathe liquid, could exist suspended in the medium that sustains all terrestrial life. When you look up, you see not sky but infrastructure, the architecture of stems and branches that holds the canopy above, the vascular system of the greenhouse made visible, the xylem and phloem of countless plants forming a living ceiling that pulses with the movement of sap, with the transpiration of water, with the slow heartbeat of growth. The chamber amplifies sound in strange ways, the silence not empty but full of small noises, the drip of condensation, the crack of expanding roots, the microscopic pop of fungal hyphae penetrating soil particles, the conversations of organisms too small to see but too numerous to ignore. You feel the respiration of the greenhouse, not as abstract knowledge but as physical sensation, the sense that you are inside a lung, inside a digestive system, inside the body of a creature that metabolizes light and exhales oxygen, that takes in carbon and produces sugar, that transforms mineral into living tissue with an efficiency no technology can match. The greenhouse contains deeper levels, smaller chambers accessible through passages that require you to crawl, to make yourself low, to approach the deepest spaces with the humility of a seed burying itself, of a root probing downward, of a consciousness surrendering its upright human posture to enter the world as plants enter it, prone, patient, permeable. These lowest chambers are not for human habitation but for germination, for the most vulnerable stages of growth, for seeds that require absolute darkness to wake, for roots that must find their own paths without guidance, for processes that must occur unseen to produce what will later be celebrated in light. The soil here is not packed but loose, friable, the texture of possibility, of potential energy waiting for the trigger of water and warmth to unleash the stored explosion of growth. Lying on this earth, feeling it against your back, you understand the appeal of burial, the wisdom of returning to horizontal, the intelligence of roots that know what shoots forget, that depth is not escape but foundation, that darkness is not absence but source, that the visible world is supported by invisible structures that must be trusted but cannot be seen. This position, this perspective, was not designed but discovered, found by those who stayed long enough to be taught by the greenhouse, to be led by curiosity and patience into spaces that reveal themselves only to those who approach on their knees, on their bellies, with hands in soil and ears to the ground. Time moves differently here, or perhaps it is simply that the usual measurements lose meaning in the face of growth that operates on scales of days and weeks rather than hours and minutes. A seed that was dormant when you arrived may have sprouted when you next look, or a root that was probing may have found its target, or a leaf may have unfurled that was tight in bud when you last passed. There are moments in the greenhouse when the plants themselves seem to respond to your presence, when conditions align in ways that cannot be planned or predicted, when the humidity is perfect and the light is golden and your mind is quiet enough to receive what the vegetal world offers. On these occasions, which are not really occasions but qualities of attention existing in this place beyond schedule, the greenhouse becomes transparent, the walls seeming to dissolve, leaving only the relationship between your consciousness and the green, between the watcher and the growing, the tender and the tended. You feel not separate but continuous, part of something vast yet intimate, a node in a network of care extending across time and space to include all who have planted seeds in hope, who have wept over gardens killed by frost, who have known plants are not objects but subjects, not resources but relations. This is the gift of the greenhouse, the reason it grew, the reason it persists through seasons that would kill anything less adapted, to create conditions where this connection can occur, where boundaries between self and other become permeable, where cultivation is replaced by collaboration, where tending becomes being tended. Rain comes rarely from above, the structure usually creating its own weather, its own cycles of moisture rising from soil and falling from leaves in perpetual circulation requiring no clouds. But when it comes, when conditions align to bring water from sky to this already wet place, it transforms the greenhouse completely, changes its character, awakens something dry periods leave dormant. Water flows through the canopy, following paths designed by leaf and stem, collecting in pools forming in curves of roots, running in channels echoing the chamber design. The sound of falling water in this enclosed space is magical, a music contrasting with usual silence, bringing life to stone in ways starlight cannot achieve, speaking in a dialect older than worlds. Cold also comes to the greenhouse, though less frequently than in the world outside, the structure holding warmth like a body holds fever, creating pockets of heat that protect the most tender growth from extremes that would kill. The cold makes the air visible, your breath becoming cloud, the moisture condensing on every surface to create a world of droplets, each one a lens, each one a world, each one containing the inverted image of the green that surrounds you. Inside the chambers, the temperature drops but never becomes lethal, the mass of living tissue providing protection, the design somehow anticipating weather extremes that occur only rarely but which must be survived when they come. gardeners who stayed through winter nights reported experiences of profound solitude, not loneliness but the solitude of a seed waiting in frozen ground, of a root dormant in winter soil, of a reduction of existence to its essential elements that some found terrifying and others found preparatory, a necessary pause before the explosion of spring. You feel this now, even though you are not in winter, even though the cold is not biting. You feel the potential for dormancy, for the patience of bulbs and tubers that wait months or years for conditions to be right, that trust the cycle in ways that humans struggle to trust. The greenhouse contains no decorations, no art for art's sake, nothing that does not serve the essential function of growth, of creating conditions where life can deepen and expand. But the plants themselves have become beautiful through growth, through adaptation, through the slow accumulation of response to environment that has produced forms no artist could imagine, colors no painter could mix, textures that invite touch and reward it with information, with connection, with the transfer of something between species that science cannot measure but gardeners know is real. You begin the ascent from the deepest chamber, moving back through spaces you traversed, but they are not the same spaces, or you are not the same person who descended what seems like days ago but may have been hours. Time has become organic in the greenhouse, has lost the rigid structure governing life outside, has become something that grows rather than passes. The spiral path feels different going up, each step an opportunity to emerge rather than bury, to unfold rather than root. The air grows lighter, brighter, more like air of ordinary existence, but you carry something from the depths, some quality of patience, some capacity for darkness, some understanding of what consciousness can contain when stripped of speed. You pass through the root chamber, then the entrance space, each familiar yet transformed by your time in the lowest depths, by the experience of lying on germination soil feeling potential surround you. The greenhouse has given you what it gives to all who enter with openness, with willingness to be changed by humidity and chlorophyll. You find yourself at the threshold now, but the path behind has grown over, been absorbed into living structure. You do not retrace steps. You allow yourself to drift, to let sleep claim you, to surrender to darkness that is not absence of light but presence of rest. The greenhouse continues growing, as it always has, as it will continue long after your brief presence has been absorbed into its tissue. You are not leaving. You are becoming part of something perennial, held as roots hold soil, as leaves hold light, as sleep holds sleeper in gentle embrace. The greenhouse holds secrets revealing themselves only to those who return again and again, who build relationships with plants and soil that deepen over time, like friendships requiring no words, like marriages requiring no ceremony. There are growth patterns on certain walls seeming random until you have watched long enough to understand their logic, until you have seen how they follow the sun's path across seasons, how they record years that happened before your birth and will continue after your death. These are not deliberate designs of human planters but accumulated traces of all who have grown here, each plant adding something, leaving something, changing the space in ways too subtle to see day by day but too real to deny over years. The soil remembers, though not in ways science can fully explain, not in ways instruments can capture. It remembers in the way living things remember, holding quality of care directed toward them, becoming shaped by consciousness encountered, producing differently when tended by different hands. You sense this now, resting in the middle chamber, allowing your breathing to synchronize with transpiration surrounding you. You are not the first to feel this, and you will not be the last. You are part of a continuity stretching back through centuries, through generations of growers who found in this place something the world outside could not offer, the chance to participate in life, to witness creation, to be part of something larger than concerns of human society. The light in the canopy has shifted again, moving toward evening, toward dimness that will bring release of oxygen, uptake of carbon, nighttime routines of plants that do not sleep but change their metabolism. You welcome this transition, this daily miracle of change requiring no effort from you, happening whether you watch or not, but offering itself to your attention if you choose to receive it. Night falls on the greenhouse with a gentleness that belies the absolute transformation it brings. The last colors fade from the leaves, the last photosynthesis ceases, and suddenly the darkness is complete, is total, is overwhelming in its density. But this is not the darkness of fear, not the darkness of blindness, but the darkness that makes sense visible, that creates the conditions for the chemical language of plants to reveal itself. And reveal itself it does, one molecule at a time, the fragrances changing as the hours pass, until the air is filled with them, until the darkness is not empty but full, not absence but presence of a different kind. You lie on your back on the soft earth, feeling its warmth against your skin, feeling the life of the soil beneath you, feeling the respiration of the greenhouse as a gentle pressure that holds you in place even as it moves you through chemical space, through olfactory landscapes that shift and change like visible clouds. The plants communicate overhead, their signals too subtle for direct perception but visible in their effects, in the way growth rates change, in the way defenses are raised or lowered, in the way flowers open or close in response to messages passed through the air. This is the gift of the greenhouse, not control but participation, not mastery but membership, not dominion but democracy. You understand now why the first gardeners chose this work, why they carried water and soil, why they shaped the beds with such care. They were creating not just a source of food but a space for relationship, a place where human consciousness could expand to meet the scale of vegetal life, where the finite could touch the infinite cycle of growth and decay without being destroyed. There are sounds at night that daytime hides, subtle vibrations traveling through soil from sources you cannot identify. The earth itself is alive in ways sunlight obscures, shifting and settling, expanding and contracting with temperatures that change more dramatically when sun no longer moderates them. You hear these now as companions, as reminders that you are not alone in your resting, that soil participates in the vigil, that the greenhouse has its own rhythms, its own cycles, its own form of attention not requiring consciousness as you understand it. The air moves and stills, sometimes carrying scents from distant parts of the structure, sometimes becoming so still you hear your own heartbeat, blood in your ears, microscopic processes of your own body usually unnoticed. Both conditions have their teachings. Moving air reminds you of connection, of world's persistence, of exchange continuing whether observed or not. Stillness reminds you of peace, of possibility of complete rest, of silence existing at the heart of all growth. You move between these states, between attention and relaxation, between watching and simply being. The greenhouse accommodates both, has room for both, was grown to hold both. There is no single correct way to be here, no protocol that must be followed, no technique that must be mastered. There is only presence, only willingness, only openness to receive what the place offers and to give what you have to give in return. This exchange, this relationship, is what has sustained the greenhouse through centuries, what has made it more than structure, what has transformed it into living entity responding to those who approach it with respect. You feel this now, feel the reciprocity, feel the give and take requiring no words, no negotiation, no conscious agreement. It simply happens, simply flows, simply exists as naturally as sap rising in spring, as roots seeking water, as leaves turning toward light. Dawn approaches the greenhouse with scents that seem impossible, with fragrances that shift through qualities that have no names, that exist only in the moments between night and day, in the transition that repeats daily but never repeats exactly. You have rested through the night, or you have dreamed, or you have drifted in some state between the two that the greenhouse makes possible, that it encourages, that it holds as gently as it holds everything else. The darkness fades gradually, not disappearing but becoming invisible, the chemical signals still present but overwhelmed by the greater light that approaches. You think of all the mornings that have dawned on this place, all the gardeners who have experienced this same transition, who have felt this same mixture of loss and anticipation, of sadness at the night's departure and joy at the day's return. You are connected to them now, across time, across space, across all the differences of culture and language and technique that separate humans from each other. In this moment, experiencing this dawn, you are one with them, part of a community that exists only in the act of growing, that has no other membership requirement, no other obligation. The light strengthens, becomes more definite, more directional. Shadows appear where there have been no shadows, defining spaces that darkness made uniform. The plants respond, slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the machinery of photosynthesis waking, the stomata opening, the great transformation beginning again. You feel this awakening, notice it, include it in your awareness. This is the greenhouse's teaching, that everything changes, that everything can be noticed, that attention is the only gift required and the only gift given. You carry this teaching with you now, woven into your being, available even when you have left this place. The days pass in the greenhouse with a rhythm that has nothing to do with clocks, nothing to do with schedules, nothing to do with the demands that the world outside makes on time. You eat when hungry, rest when tired, tend when the plants offer something worth tending, observe when they do not. This simplicity is liberating, is healing, is a return to something fundamental that agriculture has obscured but not destroyed. You remember what it is to be an animal, to be a body, to be a consciousness that exists in direct relationship with its environment rather than mediated through markets and machines and social expectations. The greenhouse strips all of this away, not through rejection but through irrelevance. None of it matters here. None of it reaches here. Only what is essential remains: water, light, soil, and the tending that is the reason for all three. You understand now why the gardeners stayed, why they gave their lives to this place, why they chose growth over profit, patience over speed, relationship over extraction. They were not escaping the world but finding it, not rejecting life but embracing it more fully than the world outside allowed. You feel this possibility in yourself now, this opening, this expansion. You do not need to stay forever to receive the gift. You only need to stay long enough to understand that staying is possible, that the world outside will wait, that it will take you back when you are ready, changed but not destroyed, enriched rather than diminished. The greenhouse has given you this understanding, has planted it deep within you where it will continue to grow long after you have left. You carry it now like a seed, like a promise, like a secret that you will share with no one because it cannot be shared in words, only in the quality of your presence, only in the depth of your attention, only in the peace that others will sense in you without knowing its source. There comes a moment in the greenhouse when you realize that you have stopped counting time, stopped measuring your growth, stopped comparing this moment to any other. You are simply here, simply present, simply alive in a way that feels both ancient and new, both familiar and unprecedented. The soil beneath you, the canopy above you, the air around you, all of it is immediate, all of it is real, all of it is sufficient. You do not need more. You do not want more. This is enough, this presence, this attention, this being. The greenhouse has taught you this, has led you to this, has held you while you learned it. You will carry this knowledge with you when you leave, will carry it back to the world outside, will carry it through the rest of your life as a touchstone, as a reminder, as a proof that such moments are possible, that such peace exists, that such connection with something larger than the self is available to anyone who seeks it with sincerity. But you are not leaving yet. There is more to receive, more to learn, more to become. The greenhouse continues to offer, continues to teach, continues to transform. Each moment is new, each moment is complete, each moment is a gift that requires no payment, no obligation, no debt. You simply receive, simply allow, simply be. This is the highest teaching, the deepest wisdom, the most profound transformation that the greenhouse offers, not knowledge but being, not understanding but presence, not achievement but acceptance. You feel this truth settling into your bones, into your breath, into the very fabric of your consciousness. It does not need to be remembered because it cannot be forgotten. It has become part of what you are, part of how you move through the world, part of how you encounter whatever comes next. And now you feel the sleep that has been waiting, that has been patient, that has not demanded but has simply been present, available, ready when you are ready. It comes to you as a gift, as a natural consequence of the peace you have found, the stillness you have cultivated, the attention you have directed. You do not fight it. You do not resist. You welcome it as you have welcomed everything else in the greenhouse, with openness, with gratitude, with trust. The soil beneath you becomes softer, becomes a bed, becomes a place of rest that holds you as gently as the greenhouse has held you throughout your time here. The canopy above becomes a dream, becomes a story, becomes a landscape you will explore in sleep as you have explored it in waking. The boundary between self and place dissolves, between tender and tended, between the one who grows and the one who is grown. You are all of it now, are part of all of it, are held within all of it. The greenhouse continues its existence, continues its growing, continues its patient transformation of light into life that will continue long after your brief presence has ended. But you are part of it now, permanently, irrevocably. Your attention has been added to the accumulation, your care to the history, your being to the soil. Sleep takes you gently, takes you completely, takes you into darkness that is not empty but full, not an end but a beginning, not a departure but a deeper arrival. You drift now, drift downward, drift inward, following paths that the greenhouse has prepared for you, that it has always prepared for those who come here with openness and sincerity. The leaves rustle overhead, the roots hold you below, and you between them, held in both directions, held in all directions, held in the gentle embrace of a place that knows how to grow, how to wait, how to welcome, how to transform. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep in peace.